Hi, sister.
Hey, sister.
What you doing?
Laughing at us for not having our microphones on
Yo,
correctly.
let Sierra tell you what just happened.
So we're over here. Mind
We
you,
out here rambling.
for real, we literally just recorded like 10 minutes of this, and then our voices were really echoey. Come to find out, there's like a piece that's supposed to plug into your phone for your microphones to work.
We
It was
balling on a budget.
it wasn't plugged in.
So, here we are. We're back again. What are we going to talk about today?
A song that our grandmother used to sing to us as children to go to sleep.
What might that song be?
Down in shame.
State of SC,
Lived
a school teacher, sweet as can be. She taught in the week time.
On Sunday she sang.
That is a murder song, by the way, and it's really not a song. It's a poem.
It's in a book, yep. And it is a song on YouTube now. I don't know how old the song. I think the song originated from like 1957, but
And you ain't from the South if your grandma didn't put you to sleep by singing you a murder song.
murder song. How morbid.
Absolutely. I've always had questions. One day Sierra called me and she was like, hey, you will never believe what I found.
That it is a real case. It actually made national news at the time. There were even people in Miami in a newspaper talking about it. So it was pretty well known. So there wasn't much known about their upbringing or their personalities really. The only thing that I could find is that Raph was a farmer, and he ran a filling station. And then Faye, of course, was a French teacher, a high school French teacher at Sharon High School.
Raph and Faye King. And Faye was Faye Wilson,
daughter of John and Nancy Wilson. So Raph's parents were William and Laura. They were all born in Shelby, is kind of what I gathered, or Cleveland County in general. It doesn't say where Faye was from, but I would imagine she was from around here.
So before we get into this too deep, do you want to go ahead and read them, the poem?
Oh, yeah. Let's read them the poem. I got it right here. All right. In a town named Sharon in the state of SC lived a school teacher. She was sweet as could be. She taught in the week time. On Sunday she'd sing. The name of this teacher was Faye Wilson King. One day she was murdered. In 1929, Raph King, her husband, was accused of the crime. McCorkle, the coroner, held the inquest. Fred Quinn, the sheriff, made the arrest. They brought him to York and placed him in jail. $3,000 was the amount of his bail. King had 7 lawyers. For him they made plea to find him not guilty and let him go free. King claimed he was ailing all day in his bed, but in an old outhouse they found his wife dead. Just how it all happened, God only knows. King must have been guilty by the blood on his clothes. Judge Henry of Chester was a judge at the trial. When the jury said guilty, King sat there and smiled. In the courthouse at Chester in the month of July, Judge Henry told Raph King for his crime he must die. He was placed in death house, stayed there a while. Supreme Court granted a new trial. He was tried in Lancaster for killing his wife. King was committed and sentenced for life. Just like all criminals, King, he looked proud. They dressed him in overalls and clipped off his hair. King's number now is 28758, beginning his life term to work for the state.
Okay, so from what you just read, we know Raph King killed Faye Wilson King.
Right.
But what happened? What's the story? What's the scoop?
What's the scoop? Okay, so it started off that Raph was kind of sick that day, and he called the doctor because he wasn't feeling well. So the doctor gave him some medicine. Faye allegedly left for work that morning, and then later he said that he was sick all day and she didn't come home that night. So he asked his neighbors to help him look for her because he hadn't heard anything. One of the neighbors actually found her in a pile of walnuts in a smokehouse. So after that, at first they ruled it as a suicide, actually. They said that she was in unusually high spirits that day. They also had said that she was very troubled. She had poor health. She talked about like unaliving herself, and she even had plans on how to do it. Now, this is what Raph told people. He also said that she was very depressed, and said that she probably did just unalive herself.
She suffered from mental health issues, and he tried to use that against her.
This case, though, is that there's just so many inconsistencies with everybody. Her death certificate actually had said her cause of death was a lick on the head and poison in her stomach, which Raph had said that she ingested the poison herself. And she was buried rather quickly after she was found dead. And then the police actually became a little suspicious of that because every time they asked Raph what happened, his story was inconsistent. In February, he is charged with murder, and Faye's body is exhumed for a more thorough autopsy because of the inconsistencies with his story and then with the cause of death. They just wanted to do a more like thorough autopsy of her body. A panel of 5 doctors got together and said that she actually died of strangulation and not poison. So they do an investigation of the house as well. They discovered bloody clothing in the attic and blood stains like throughout the house on like some papers that she was grading, in the attic itself. And then that April, after they've collected evidence from the house, after they've done the investigation of the body, he had a trial, and he had 7 lawyers in his defense team. And they also petitioned for a change in location because at the time he was getting a lot of hate and the case was gaining a lot of traction. So he claimed that it was like a mob mentality on him. So he didn't think that he had like a fair trial at first. So they wanted to change it to Chester. The lawyers actually had like 60 plus affidavits that supported it. So it actually was approved. He did get a new trial after the first one. But because this was such a well-known case, Chester had a hard time like accommodating all those people. They even sent a bill to York County for the damages to the courthouse because so many people were there.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. They had to get him in through a window. He used a ladder to get inside the courtroom because he couldn't go through the front. It's crazy. A ladder to get in the courtroom.
A ladder.
Mm-hmm. So while he was in court, he was very calm. He maintained that he was sick and that Faye is the one that gave him the sedative to put him to sleep for most of the day. All of the evidence was circumstantial, but it was enough for them to convict him of murder. He was sentenced to death in September of that same year in 1929, and they sent him to Columbia. Then he was sent back to Chester because of some law that says that you can't have a convicted murderer until 20 days before his execution. So he couldn't stay in Columbia because it wasn't close enough to his execution date, pretty much. So they sent him back to Chester because he has another trial before he's actually finally convicted. Because of the constant like visitors and everything at Chester, the governor actually ordered the state penitentiary to accept him regardless of their role because so many people wanted to come visit him or wanted to watch what he was. Same thing like now, you know, like people, these cases get like this crazy amount of attention. So in the first trial, it said that she was unalived by strangulation. They had medical evidence to support that. Bruising on the neck. There was fractured cartilage in her throat, which were consistent with manual strangulation. She had no internal energies, good Lord. No internal injuries consistent with poisoning. So even if she did, because they did find like burn marks around her lips, but there wasn't enough poison in her system to have killed her. So the chemical test that they did only found traces of arsenic in her stomach, and they came to the conclusion that poison was not the cause of death. It could have actually been given to her to like slow her down or incapacitate her. so that he could strangle her, if that makes sense.
And there was that whack on the back of the head.
Right. Or they actually said that it could have been given to her as like a red herring. And all a red herring means, if you don't know, is that it's a clue or piece of information that is or is intended to be misleading or distracting. That is the definition that Google gave me. Also, the blood evidence. So I mentioned the stained clothing and the school papers. They were inconsistent with suicide. Witnesses actually testified that she did have mental problems and that she was very jealous. Her and Raph had a lot of arguments. They also suggested that Raph was controlling and had financial motives. There was definitely, like I said, inconsistencies in his story. He first said that she died in the house. Then he tried to like blame a man of color for her death. And then finally he settled on that she drank acid. So also the timeline in when he last saw her and when he actually called for help, there was like a big gap in that time. So they questioned that as well. The defense for Raph said that the original examination was suicide by acid. So they were concerned why the state decided to switch her cause of death. They also said that this was an initial unbiased medical opinion before the state changed the story. They also said that Faye's mental health was not great. They said that she was ill, she was always nervous, depressed in the months leading to her death. They said that the neck bruising was post-mortem from handling or decomposition. They also said that the cartilage damage was poor preservation after burial, is what they blamed that on. Also, the bloodstains were misidentified, they claimed. They claimed that there was no way for them to know whether the blood was from meat in the smokehouse or if it was human at all, or if it may have been from her time of the month or unrelated injuries. They really tried to say that there was no way to know if that blood was actually hers. So they also questioned whose clothes were found in the attic and if they had been worn handling the meat or whatever else. And they also claimed that the poison was self-administered by Faye and explained her cause of death without foul play. So they really kind of stuck to that suicide thing. And the state, it said that the state's there. Hold on. His lawyers actually said that the state's own experts disagreed on whether the poison was enough to kill her. So they kind of brought up that even the state didn't know if the poison was the cause of death or not. So King was still sentenced to death even after all of the evidence that his lawyers presented. And his lawyers requested an appeal because they said that all of the coverage before the trial and every, like I said, that mob mentality kind of like was prejudice. So that's what they claimed. And they argued that some evidence was irrelevant because they couldn't definitively say whose blood was whose. And then they claimed that the judge should have excluded the autopsy evidence because the body had already decomposed. They claimed that the judge confused the jury by telling them how to interpret the circumstantial evidence. So they feel like the judge kind of tried to sway the jury a little bit. And then eventually they approved a retrial in the South Carolina Supreme Court, mostly due to the judge and the evidence. And then after the retrial, he was still convicted, but this time it was just life in prison. They didn't execute him. And he died in prison from congestive heart failure. But that is the story of
Faye Wilson King.
You know what's kind of sad though is there's not a lot about her. It's more like there was so many things about Raph that you could like look up and see, but there's really nothing about her, which is kind of sad.
Thank y'all for being here for our first podcast out here where the crickets sing.
Out here rambling. Maybe next one will be longer.
Yeah, we just wanted to let y'all in on the little Sharon debacle back in the early 1900s.
Well, we hope that y'all were able to keep up with everything. I know it was a little all over the place.
And like I said, this was our first time doing this. So,
y'all come back now.
you hear?